Hi, everybody. And now we have come to the final lesson of our entire Eating Peace journey. Wow, the living turnarounds. And it's one of my favorite things in all the world, spending time on my living turnarounds. So find some of these quotes familiar because it's worth repeating. Katie says this in Loving What Is: what seemed terrible changes once you've questioned it. There is nothing terrible except your unquestioned thoughts about what you see. Remarkable. So, as a reminder from lesson 3, and really all our work that we're doing in Eating Peace, is that where does Eating Peace happen? It happens in the now. When I'm at eating war, I'm either in the past or I'm in the future in my thinking. And like a magnet, much of my consciousness has followed that direction. So the beginning place of where I always find Eating Peace is in the now, right now. How do I do it? I question my unquestioned beliefs that are stressful. So you may recognize this chart from our feelings module, the very beginning of the feelings module. We start with a foundation, which is really like those foundations of Eating Peace, just a foundation of something to stand on to help us interrupt this process of compulsion, wanting to look. And how do we enter this circle that all weaves and balances together? It's like a pie. Wonderful to say the word pie, that it all connects, all the points meet in the middle. Just a foundational place, being willing to interrupt the process and just stop the way we've been doing it. We know it doesn't work. We're already open to stopping. So, stage 1, willing, curious. I'm willing to look at what I'm thinking. I'm willing to look at what just happened. I ate too much. I refused to eat even though I was hungry. I'm willing to look at what just happened. I criticized myself. I saw myself in the mirror. I didn't like my clothing. Willing and curious is so different than knowing that it's bad. Just willing, I don't even know that it's good yet, but it's got a different quality to it. I'm willing to be curious. I'm willing to even consider all of this. Second stage, I allow, I approve. I love these words together. They seem a little bit different. Allowing is like, I'm letting it come in. It's here anyway. I don't know. I allow it to be the way it is. There's something kind of exciting about it. And yet approving seems like I'm actually saying, check, it's okay that you're here. In fact, it's even good that you're here. And yet that is the helpful approach. So I approve it's here. I approve of it being here because it is. This eating urge, this food, this feeling of overeating, my body as it is, anything that I've been against, well, I just am going to approve of its presence. Then compassion, stage 3. I hold myself and my big feelings and my behaviors and this body with compassion, joined with love and passion. I'm holding it. I am not abandoning, betraying, killing it. The thoughts are here, the feelings are here already, so let's hold it with compassion. Stage 4, I trust. I trust the situation. It's here to support me somehow. How do I know? Because here it is. Even an overeat, even a extremely negative thought about myself. Just, can I trust this moment? Can I trust the moment? Can I trust what is? This off balance thing has existed. I can trust it's for some interesting thing. I don't even know entirely what all that suffering is for, But here it is. Trust it. And 5, I love what is. I have loving what is in me already. That's why we're also, open to it, because there already exists a loving what is perspective. I have those glasses. I'm born with them. I can love myself and my own behaviors. I can love myself eating or not eating, whatever this myself is, which is mysterious. I just unconditionally accept what is. So wherever things fit, maybe you've had a huge, off balance series of feelings. You feel terrified, and you might find trust. You might suddenly remember trust. So you enter the process open to trusting. So, how do I do it? It's like the circle around the outside here. Connect, open to feelings and behaviors in the mind. I identify my thoughts, I inquire, and turn around. Let's just see this. Review. This is the flow of practice for experiencing off balance behavior, off balance thought, off balance thought, off balance feeling. I'm open to my feelings and my thoughts and my mind and behavior. Whatever it is that's going on in reality, including within me, I'm open to it. I identify the thoughts that I'm thinking. I just articulate and put into words what's going on. I communicate with myself and my mind. Then I inquire into my thinking. I make it a question mark. I use the 4 questions and I find turnarounds. And then I connect with my inner silence, back to that again, my loving what is, that was already here in the first place. I don't have to reinvent that or grow it in a way like starting from scratch. I have it. So here's an exercise. Very important. So get out your journal or a pen and paper, and we're going to be very simple about this. Write down only 3 answers to any of these questions, no more. Not at this point. 1, notice any stressful thoughts right now about your eating in your life. You might not be eating right now at this exact moment, but I just mean today. Write them down. Write 3 thoughts down. You can pause the video if you need to. I recommend that. 2, notice any stressful thoughts about your body. Only 3. Childish as they are, doesn't matter. Just notice any stressful thoughts about your body. And the third question, what's the worst that could happen when it comes to eating peace or lack of eating peace? Just what's the worst that could happen when it comes to eating? Anything related to this? Okay. Is there anything you're worried about when it comes to this topic from now moving forward? Your behavior, your experience in life? Write 3 things down. Again, pause the video if you need to. So Katie says this, then you take an imaginative leap. You imagine what your life would be without the thought. If you didn't believe it, or if you were incapable even of thinking it, just for this moment, don't bother about whether or not the thought is true. The point is to experiment, to see what your life feels like when you don't believe that thought. So exciting. This is a living turnaround. So let's look at our turnarounds again. How do you find living turnarounds? They're things that feel like they just click and lock in, like, wow, that's the total opposite I would have been thinking, or that's just a little opposite, and that's amazing. That feels so much better and more exciting. So for example, I'm doing the work on I don't have enough time. Turned around, I don't have enough of me. Time doesn't have enough of me. I do have enough. I do have enough time. I have enough. My living turnaround is I have enough. Another example. He doesn't listen to me. She doesn't listen to me. Turned around, they do listen to me. I don't listen to myself. Living turnaround, and I don't listen to them, of course. Living turnaround, how would I live this turnaround? Oh, I find out I haven't been listening to myself or to them. I do listen to myself, and I listen to him or her. I listen. I become a listener. See how it's just very condensed? How would I take this forward? Learning and noticing that I wasn't listening, I listen. Another example, they didn't contribute to my life, right? They ruined my life. That's the original. All right, complete opposite. They contributed to my life. They didn't ruin my life. I ruined my own life. I ruined their life. So, how do we find our living turnaround here? Because this is sometimes one of those places where you say, I ruined my own life, especially when it came to them. Bringing ourselves down into ruin, and we can become critical of the self, but we're doing all this with compassion for the learning and openness of it. So how would I live this turnaround? What's a living turnaround? What do I want to carry forward if it's just going to move with me, this awareness that I've had? Oh, I contribute to my own life, and I contribute to theirs, and they contribute to mine too. But contribution, I like that word. You might find another one. Whatever the opposite of ruin is, like build. I'm building my own life. I'm building theirs. I'm supporting. You find your own perfect words always when it comes to living turnarounds. And then the final example here is, I'm not good enough as original thought. I am good enough. My thinking perhaps is not good enough in the situation, but I find a turnaround. I am good enough. So there's my living turnaround, very simple. I am, and even my thinking is. Everything is good enough in my situation. So, continuing looking at this living turnaround and noticing the quality of the feeling, that's the most important thing. You know how at the beginning we find that our feelings are more obvious than the thoughts behind all this off balance eating and off balance experiencing? The feeling has been our compass, the temple bell. Something's wrong. I feel bad. So let's turn around the quality of the feeling, like moving back. How a living turnaround is it feels different. So a living turnaround here, I like noticing any original thought, I want, whatever it is, well, it wants me, or if I got more time. So original thought, I don't have enough time. I want more time. Why do I want it more time? Why do I want more time? Because it brings me rest. It brings me playfulness. That's what I think it'll have if I do this middle step and get to where I want to go with more time. What will I have if I have that? Rest, playfulness, freedom. So living turnaround is experiencing freedom and playfulness or rest right now. If I'm worried that something will happen, my living turnaround is, if that thing happens, I'm actually fine. I'm safe, whether this happens or does not happen. Could that be true? Could I live that? The question always in living turnaround, if I lived this turnaround, what would it feel like? That's when I'm playing with these feelings. And this is terrible. We've noticed how and why by sitting with it and doing the work, investigating. living turnaround, this is actually serving me. This was okay that this happened. It is okay that it happened. I'm open to what it brings me. And I know this can take you down to your knees on what has happened in the world. I've had that experience myself. And even just having a tiny drop of openness to what it brings you can work miracles in your life. So it's serving, rest, relaxation, peace, trust. When we turn the feeling around, it's very exciting. And I like having one word for a feeling turnaround that I love. And you all have entered my living turnaround to eating wars, which is eating peace. I actually want peace in any situation, in the presence of food and eating, in the presence of hunger and fullness, in the presence of seeing this body. I want peace. So we can all hold that. We've all been studying it. We're all open to it. We've been actually eating peace, taking it in, consuming peace, making contact with peace by doing our work, by questioning our stories. And we may have more or another different thought that you love and you want, and just watching and noticing what the feeling turnaround is for you. Power, generous, open, safe. So just finding your unique joy that you have with the feeling turnaround, naming the feeling and how you would live that. And it's also very simple because it's one word, or one very, very short phrase. Like, oh yeah, I want to live this. My living turnaround is this. Aha, forgot that for a minute. Come back. So, a little more with this to spend time. Gosh, we just did this in the year of inquiry. We spend a month in living turnarounds, and I found it so useful. I find it useful to go over again and again. So you can make a name for your living turnaround that's very unique for you. Your living turnaround might be trustworthy. My thoughts are trustworthy. My feelings are trustworthy. I am trustworthy. This situation is trustworthy, worthy of trust. Deep integrity, honest, love. It's like an art form. You're looking at something simple, one word, not all the wordiness we have when we're thinking often. And I really wanted to invite you and just comment to this that I like naming a living turnaround. So, for example, Rachel or Gandhi. And these have just been living turnarounds for me in my past. I don't currently hold them, or maybe they're there forever. But Rachel was a living turnaround that I named as I looked back because I had an abortion, and it was the number one most shameful, horrible thing that I had ever believed that I did. Something about it was so off and so difficult. And it's the first thing that I ever did the work on in my entire life when I found out about the work of Byron Katie. So Rachel, in the old stories of the Old Testament, was somebody who was forgiving around that. And Rachel's Daughter is even an organization that my mom found for me, which was so amazing at the time, where you could go on a retreat to find forgiveness for your own abortion. And the people that I met there were absolutely amazing, the women I met there. And it was really powerful. And I thought it was so sweet. And it was run by a Catholic organization, which, if you know about Catholicism, one fundamental belief is that you never do that. And here were all these women, some of them were raised Catholic, in this retreat. And I thought, how magnificent is that? It worked for me at the time. So a living turnaround for me was just saying Rachel. absolute and total pure forgiveness about all of it, not even needing to forgive it, like total acceptance that life and death are both happen, and to also remember this experience where you went off out of your integrity without knowing what was right or wrong. Something happened there that still was off for me, and then I could question it later, and just as I did, and learn. And then Gandhi, there was just different things about Gandhi's life and Gandhi's story that were incredibly important to me. And I love that he stood up very powerfully for exactly what he intended, accepting things as they were, and also making that little 1% change, walking into the room with the great dignitaries and the leaders of the country saying, I would like a meeting, and telling them what he really thought, or standing up and still burning his passbook in the fires. So, beautiful example of just noticing, for me, a living turnaround, and calling it Gandhi for me at the time was power in nonviolence. So when I was feeling like the only way to get power was to be violent, I'd remember Gandhi. I'd say it, and it had a feeling sense to it, like rooted in the ground, like a big tree, unmovable. So those are my living turnarounds. This is some examples of some of them. If you don't find a name appearing, you can just describe color, sound, light, texture, temperature of this living turnaround. Hold the feeling in your body and in your heart. But what we're really loving to do here with a living turnaround is to make it as least complicated as possible and still mean something. Like when you look at a piece of art, taking it in. So just simply describe it, get the real sense of it so that you just can access it. You know it, it's a resource. And finally, using your imagination, which is what we've been doing so much in our lives when it comes to food and eating, our bodies, all of it, interaction with reality. So we've been imagining sort of more upsetting, unsafe things based on our experiences. So we're going to imagine living this turnaround when I go about my daily life today. So it's funny, Katie, you'll hear her say sometimes when she's doing the work with people, well, so how would that feel if you lived that turnaround? How would that feel if you went to the market? If you went to work? Just go about your day believing that turnaround thought. What would that look like? And people will respond. She just says it every so often. Very sweet little invitation. So imagine having the feeling and living this turnaround when you interact with others, when you interact with food and interact with the mirror. Imagine having that feeling and living this turnaround when you were back in that original situation. So take your living turnaround and go back to whatever started off a process of believing in something that was very stressful, and just take your living turnaround back in that moment and see what it feels like. So I'd go back to, I could, without watching it, just notice, like, for example, my first husband, who I believed for so long left me. I can imagine Gandhi in the presence of him and being rooted and just looking at him and being with him in my imagination, and something shifts. All right. Wrapping up and ending this living turnaround invitation. It's ongoing, ongoing. Love questioning our thoughts, noticing what we believe, and entering the don't know mind. But again, Katie says this: when you sincerely question your unexamined thoughts about yourself, which is what we're often doing in eating peace, love just happens. When you sincerely question your unexamined thoughts about yourself, love just happens. So thank you ever so much for being with me in this journey. And I can't wait for more. Satisfied with what is, excited also for more. Lots of love, everybody.